Hello students, welcome to the lecture on training process. And after the lecture, we will be able to learn the following objectives. Describe the role and scope of training, explain the roles and responsibilities for the trainers, understand the training and development, discuss the training evaluation, define the training efforts. Let's start with a brief introduction to training process. According to the concept of human development, income is clearly only one option that people would like to have, albeit an important one. Development must therefore be more than just the expansion of income and wealth. The training and development aim at developing competencies such as technical, human, conceptual and managerial for the furtherance of individual and organization. The process of training and development is a continuous one.
Welcome to the presentation on employee training process. The first step in the training process for any organization is to assess the objectives of the training program and then devise a strategy or method to administer the same. Objectives are the end results which the organization wants to achieve within a given time frame. Objectives should be realistic and measurable. They should help in guiding and motivating the employees to accomplish their mission. You need a strategy for defining the method adopted by the organization to meet the objectives. Strategies are used as a roadmap for accomplishing organizational objectives. Why do you need to assess training needs? Assessments are needed to identify the performance gap between what is actually needed and what is the current level of performance among the employees. By assessing training needs, one can understand what the organization expects from the employees and to what extent the employees meet those requirements. If there is a mismatch between what the organizations expect from their employees and what is actually delivered by them, it means there is a learning gap. Training assessments help to identify this learning gap. Based on the learning gaps found, organizations can define the learning objectives and plan a training program to bridge the learning gap. Let us examine how establishing the goals before training is very important. A training program should have well-defined goals stating clearly the benefits of the program. Goals and objectives together define the major component of training initiatives. Goals must be stated in advance for achieving learning objectives that can be measurable in concrete terms. Thus, training goals determine the overall direction of the training program so that the learner and the trainer both get a clear description of the learning outcomes which they expect. Let's look at the factors you need to consider while designing a training program. Before starting the training program, the trainer should have relevant information about the participants and their profile so that he can devise a method that best suits their requirements, keeping in mind the training objectives. Once the training objectives have been decided, the trainer can start preparing the training content based on those specific training areas that need development. Before designing a training program, the trainer should analyze all the raw materials for instruction, organize the information in a coherent and comprehensible manner, and put it into a framework. Once you have the necessary information, you need to decide on the medium of instruction. It could be through PowerPoint presentations, classroom training, or online training. Before delivering the training program, you need to test it for its effectiveness in terms of meeting organizational goals. Implementation of the training program involves putting the training plan into action. The trainer needs to prepare the learning environment before the start of the training session. The trainer should create an environment which is comfortable for the employees so that they can freely ask questions and clarify their doubts without any hesitation. Therefore, the trainer needs to do the following. It is important that the trainer is comfortable and confident with the content of the training so that he or she can clarify all the doubts of the employees and make them feel satisfied with the training. The training session should not be scheduled beyond regular working hours. To avoid employees being distracted, The trainer should try to make the training session very interesting by showing demonstrations and encouraging employees to participate in the session. The trainer should use appropriate methodologies such as role plays, quizzes, and interactive games to keep participants involved and engaged in the training. The trainer should use simple methods to evaluate employees' performance on a regular basis. The purpose of training evaluation is to determine whether the goals and objectives of training have been achieved. This can be done at the end of the training session. The methods of evaluating a training program includes the following. Feedback from participants who have attended the training session through questionnaires or feedback forms. Supervisors can be contacted after a reasonable period of time to understand the extent to which the participants are applying the skills and knowledge gained from the training program in their jobs.
Let's now discuss about the role and scope of training. Training has been performing a very important role in helping the corporation to reach the commanding heights of performance over the years. Need for basic purposes of training. The need for the training of employees would be clear from the observations made by the authorities. To increase productivity, instruction can help employees increase the level of performance on their present assignment. Increased human performance often directly leads to increased operational productivity and increased company profit. To improve quality, better informed workers are less likely to make operational mistakes. Quality increase may be in a relationship to a company product or service or in reference to the intangible organizational employment atmosphere. To help a company fulfill its future personnel needs, organizations that have a good internal education system will have to make less drastic manpower changes and adjustments in the event of sudden personnel alterations. To improve organizational climate, an endless chain of positive reactions result from a well-planned training program. Production and product quality may improve. To improve health and safety, proper training can help prevent industrial accidents. Obsolescence, prevention. Training and development programs foster the initiative and creativity of employees and help to prevent manpower obsolescence. Personal growth. Employees on a personal basis gain individually from their exposure to educational experiences. The importance of training. As well as giving people new skills and knowledge and maintaining existing skills, training can increase the people's confidence. It can confirm to people the value of what they are already doing. It enables people to pass on new skills to colleagues in the workplace. It can raise general awareness, change the people's attitudes and improve their morale. Training. One definition of training is the process of bringing a person to an agreed standard of skill by practice and instruction. Learning. Learning is what people do when they receive that information. But learning is more than collecting information. It must also involve a permanent change in behavior, attitude, or understanding. Assessing training needs. An assessment of training needs can be done in a number of ways. Questionnaires. Questions should be geared towards finding out whether people have the skills and knowledge we think they need to do their jobs effectively. Group discussions with participants. These enable health workers to share comments and observations about what is happening in their workplaces and what skills they feel they may need. Individual discussions with participants. These give people the chance to talk in confidence about difficulties they are having and things they need to learn. Self-assessment. This involves asking health workers to list the things they think that they are good at and what subjects them to think that they need training on. Discussions with managers, service users and others. Trainers can gather views on training needs from those who come into contact with the person to be trained. Observing. Observing participants while they are working. These methods help trainers to assess what people already know and what knowledge and skills they may need to acquire to work effectively. Procedures. Suggested procedures organized according to the elements of a finding are review criteria or general criteria. General criteria applicable to the training and development process are as follows. The State Employee Training Act of 1969 provides that available public funds may be used for the education and training of state employees in programs related to either current or prospective duty assignments. Specific criteria. The criteria related to the basic phases of the training and development process are: develop a training and development plan that is linked to the NTT's strategy. An NTT should have both short-term and long-range training and development plans with both clearly stated objectives and a direct relationship to the NTT's missions and goals. Develop a training and development budget. The training and development budget should designate the amount of time and funds to be spent on the training and development program. Time and money used for training and development must be documented. Establish a means of identifying and prioritizing training and development needs. Training and development needs may be identified through performance evaluations, quality assurance processes, or NTT goals and objectives. Training and development plans should be aligned with NTT goals and strategic direction. Train the trainers and coordinate training and development efforts. Course instructors should be trained in their respective areas of instruction, appropriate training and development techniques, and course design. When a training and development program has components in a number of locations, coordination and communication between the various trainers are essential for maximum consistency and effectiveness of the training and development efforts. Establish a method for evaluating the effectiveness of training and development programs. The impact of training and development can be determined by evaluating the trainee reaction. How do the participants feel about the training and development? Trainee learning. What knowledge and skills were learned? Trainee behavior. To what extent did on-the-job behavior change as a result of training and development? Document the training and the development program. Documentation should include training and development plans. An NTT should have a long-range training and development plan and annual short-term plans which tie into the long-range plan. Training and development schedule. The scheduling of courses should be appropriate based on the NTT's technical and the strategic needs. Training and development records. The NTT needs a method of tracking internal and external training and development given to its employees. Training and development policies. Policies should define how many hours of training and development per employee are required or allowed, eligibility guidelines for training. Review the training and development program to determine the overall effectiveness and the alignment with NTT goals and objectives. Post-training studies should measure increased employee knowledge and skill. Assess condition, determine the actual processes used. Possible procedures include, but are not limited to, determine how the NTT plans its training and development and the relationship of the training and development plan to the strategic plan. Determine how the NTT uses training and development to promote the NTT objectives and develop the employees' careers. Obtain and review any manuals, policies and forms used for the training and development process. Determine what type of training and development records are maintained. Obtain and review turnover reports by job position. Determine what type of training and development information is contained in the employee's personnel file. Determine how the NTT evaluates its training and development program and individual classes and uses such evaluation information. Interview employees to determine their impressions and assessment of the effectiveness of the training and the development program. Obtain information on the process the NTT uses to review and evaluate its training and development processes and its programs. Determine the strengths and the weaknesses of the actual process. Procedures. Analyze the actual process to determine it. It is designed to accomplish the management objective. It has controls that provide reasonable assurance that the process will work as intended. It is implemented and functioning as designed. It is actually achieving the desired management objectives. Let's now all talk about the roles and the responsibilities for the trainers. A trainer has many roles to play in order to make any training effective. Unlike in education where the guru acted as a friend, philosopher and a guide, the relationship between a trainee and a trainer is more professional. Still, a trainer has to wear many hats. There are many classifications of a trainer's role which can be stated as the trainer, the provider, the consultant, the innovator, the manager. Trainer. A trainer's role is primarily concerned with actual direct training. Provider. This training role relates to the design, maintenance and delivery of training programs. Consultant. As a consultant, a trainer is primarily concerned with analyzing business problems and assessing recommending solutions, some of which may require training. Innovator. As an innovator, a trainer is concerned with helping the organizations to manage the change effectively and to solve the performance problems. Manager. A manager's role in training is primarily concerned with planning, organizing, controlling and developing the training and the development activity or the function. Changing role of the training manager. Training managers are subject to several challenges which need to be met, often within the parameters of reduced training budgets. Technical challenge. It is to keep up to date with changes in legislation, company policy, new methods of training delivery, and new subject matter, especially in information technology. Strategic challenge. It is to monitor and respond to expected changes in skill requirements and to deliver training which provides demonstrable, measurable bottom line results, both short and the long term. Professional challenge. It is to keep up to date with changing practice to manage ongoing, continuing professional development. In the business world, the term training and development refers to the process of supporting additional learning, education and improvement in the performance of the human resources within an organization. The methods of training and development. These are on-the-job training or coaching. This relates to formal training on the job. Induction orientation. This is carried out for new entrants on the job to make them familiar with the total corporate requirements like norms, the ethics, the values, rules and regulations. Apprenticeship. A method of training where an unskilled person understudies a skilled person. Demonstration. Teaching by example, whereby the skilled worker performs the job and the unskilled closely observes so as to understand the job. Vestibule. This is done through industrial attachment for the purpose of skills and technology transfer. Formal training, a practical and theoretical teaching process which could be done within or outside an organization. The method of development. Understudy. This is good for succession planning. This allows for smooth transition of work when one officer leaves a schedule or organization. Job rotation. It is necessary for all workers to move from one schedule to the other within the same organization to allow for competence in all spheres of work. Self-development or self-assessment. Self-development means a personal desire to improve through an individual's attempt to embark on study and practical explosive that are independent of an organization's role and contribution. The approaches to training. The considerations for training vary in organizations. Some of these considerations are not necessarily based on need. The various influences of training are summed up as administrative approach. This is based on the establishment of budget and policies. Welfare approach. This is based on extraneous considerations. Some organizations send staff on training abroad with a view to improving their financial well-being or their skills to enable them a secure employment elsewhere. Political approach. Within the ranks of organization are pressure groups, loyalists and favorites of managers who use their privileged positions to secure training opportunities over and above their colleagues who in most cases merit the training programs available. Organizational development approach. This approach uses departmental training needs as consideration for selection. Systematic or need-based training. The selection process here is based on the identification of the training needs. Inputs in training and developments. Any training and development program must contain inputs which enable the participants to gain skills, learn theoretical concepts, and help acquire vision to look into the distinct future. Skills. Training is imparting skills to employees. A worker needs skills to operate machines and use other equipments with least damage or scrap. Education. The purpose of education is to teach theoretical concepts and develop a sense of reasoning and judgment. Development. Another component of a training and development is development, which is less skill-oriented but stressed on knowledge. Ethics. There is a need for imparting greater ethical orientation to a training and development program. Attitudinal changes. Changing negative attitudes is difficult because employees refuse to changes. They have prior commitments. Information needed to change attitudes may not be sufficient. Nevertheless, attitude must be changed so that the employees feel committed to the organization. They are more motivated for better performance. Let's now talk about training evaluation. The process of examining a training program is called training evaluation. The purposes of training evaluation is, the five main purposes of training evaluations are feedback. It helps in giving feedback to the candidates by defining the objectives and linking it to the learning outcomes. Research. It helps in ascertaining the relationship between the acquired knowledge, transfer of knowledge at the workplace, and the training. Control. It helps in controlling the training program because if the training is not effective, then it can be dealt with accordingly. Power games. At times, the top management or the higher authoritative employee uses the evaluative data to manipulate it for their own benefits. Intervention. It helps in determining that whether the actual outcomes are aligned with the expected outcomes. The process of training evaluation. Before training, the learner's skills and knowledge are assessed before the training program. During the training, it is the phase at which instruction is started. After the training, it is the phase when learners' skills and knowledge are assessed again to measure the effectiveness of the training program. Let's explore training efforts. Training should be evaluated to determine its effectiveness. The basic criteria available to evaluate training programs are reactions of participants. One of the simplest and the most common approaches to training evaluation is assessing participants' reactions. Participants can give us insights into the content and the techniques that they find most useful. The performance of the trainees. Beyond what participants think about the training, it might be a good idea to see whether the trainees actually learned anything. Performance of the training itself. It is necessary to evaluate the training program itself. It follows a four-tier system: by the subordinate, by the superior, by the peers, and by the trainee in terms of observed behavior before and after the training. Behavioral change in the trainees. Even after an effective training program, the trainees may not demonstrate behavior change back on the job. Transfer of training refers to the effective application of principles learned to what is required on the job. Organizational effectiveness. Some of the results-based criteria used in evaluating training include increased productivity, fewer employee complaints, decreased cost and waste, and profitability. Kirkpatrick model of training effort evaluation. Parties spend substantial amount of money, energy and time on training and developing their employees. The four levels are given as: Level 1, reactions. One of the simplest and most common approaches to training evaluation, assessing participants' reactions. Level 2, learning. Beyond what participants think about the training, it might be a good idea to see whether the trainees actually learned anything. Level 3, transfer. This involves assessing the benefits of training to the work in the real world. Level 4, business results. The ultimate result of the training program should contribute besides the organizational goals like increased productivity, fewer employee complaints, decreased cost and waste, profitability.
Donald Kirkpatrick's 4 levels of evaluation. Level 1, reaction. In this level, you can measure participants' immediate reactions to a course. This level of evaluation obtains the opinions, feelings, and perspectives of the learner regarding a training program. Level 2, learning. This level tests participants to see what they have learned. This level of evaluation demonstrates which principles, facts, skills, and attitudes were obtained from training. The test questions must be linked to the training objectives. This approach generally involves a pre-test and a post-test. Level 3, Behavior. This level examines behavior changes back on the job as a result of training. This level of evaluation is usually conducted at intervals after training and requires an established data baseline. Level 4, Business Results or Impact. This level determines the effects of learning on the organization. Over 60% of human resource development departments fail to conduct this type of evaluation. However, given the current economic climate, Level 4 evaluation is becoming more and more important as HRD departments are required to demonstrate accountability and how they are adding value to the organization. As a way of helping determine the feasibility of a result or impact evaluation, program designers would want to answer the following questions. Do learners value the knowledge, skills, or attitudes? Do they feel confident to use the knowledge and/or skills? Do managers of learners coach, reinforce, and model the skills being taught? Does the organization reward the use of the knowledge, skills, or attitudes? Do they eliminate task interferences? Do they provide organizational feedback? Kirkpatrick's 4 levels of evaluation. Did they like it? Did they learn it? Were they able to apply the new behavior to their jobs? And what impact did the training make on the organization?
Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Any training would be considered successful only when the knowledge gained by the participants of various programs is transferred to their job performance. Training is a means of communicating new knowledge and skills and changing attitudes. It can raise awareness and provide people with the opportunity to explore the existing knowledge and skills. A training need is the gap between what somebody already knows and what they need to know to do their job or fulfill their role effectively. The training and the development budget should designate the amount of time and funds to be spent on the training and the development program. As a consultant, a trainer is primarily concerned with analyzing business problems and assessing or recommending solutions, some of which may require training.